let's jump into a few of the bigger stories that we have had in sports over the last week. And speaking of spring, the Masters at Augusta National Golf Club took place over the weekend. And of course, the Masters, a spring tradition, unlike any other, you might say. But, I really felt bad for Scottie Scheffler over the weekend. If you didn't watch, if you weren't paying attention, Scheffler played great golf all weekend. He was so good. Even when he stumbled just a little bit on Sunday, he found a way to right the ship. He got things under control, and he manages to win a green jacket this weekend. But of course, what was the biggest story of the tournament? I hate to say this, and I genuinely feel bad about saying this. It wasn't Scottie Scheffler. It was the fact that Tiger Woods played. And how did that go? Okay, maybe not the greatest, but hey, Tiger played. He competed. Again, for a little while, he competed. But then you could see physically it was just so much, and he has that bad leg, the injury he had from that car crash. Walking was a struggle for Tiger. And the more tired he got, the more you could see his game kind of fading away. But it was interesting to me because as we're watching the tournament, you're hearing people going, yeah, Tiger's fading. He just can't keep up. What were you expecting? I mean, honestly, it's pretty amazing that he's even walking, let alone competing at the Masters. Not at some podunk country club. He's competing at the Masters. Hey, a lot of people didn't get the storybook ending they really thought they deserved or whatever. But make no mistake about this. Just playing over the weekend is an absolutely incredible comeback story. I mean, to put it in perspective, this is in the company of Mario Lemieux and Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. Don't let the final score tell you otherwise. We saw something at the Masters over the weekend that was absolutely incredible. Tiger Woods went out and played, competed, and even made the cut. Forget the final score. That's amazing. And also, by the way, I'm sorry to Scottie Scheffler. I really am. You played so well and you still got upstaged. It's not your fault. It's just how things kind of went. Congrats to Scottie Scheffler. But hey, what an amazing story by Tiger Woods. We have received some television ratings that I think you might find at least a little bit interesting. Because we talked about it last week, but the University of Kansas set a record for the biggest comeback last week in the NCAA tournament championship game. They came back from 15 points down and beat North Carolina. Well, it wasn't just Kansas that was setting records, because the game was also setting records. CBS Sports and Turner Sports said the Kansas-North Carolina championship game was the most viewed NCAA men's championship game ever on cable television. That game delivered an average of 18.1 million viewers, which actually was a 4% increase over last year's Baylor versus Gonzaga championship game. But remember, last year's championship game was on CBS. This was on TBS, just a cable channel. This was not just local TV. The Jayhawks' victory was the third most watched college basketball game in cable TV history. Just a shade, I might add, behind North Carolina's win over Duke in Saturday's Final Four game. That drew 18.5 million viewers, and Wisconsin's Final Four win back in 2015 over the University of Kentucky. But the network said the ratings for the entire tournament averaged nearly 11 million viewers per game and a 17.0 share per game. Both of those are a 13% increase over last year. And the 17.0 share is the best for the entire tournament since going back to 1994. Really strong numbers for the NCAA tournament. I know a lot of times we look at college basketball, we go, we don't care about college hoops. No, we don't care about the regular season, but when it comes tournament time, we are all in on the NCAA tournament. March Madness gets everybody watching, and that was no different this year. Ratings went up. Unfortunately, we also got some other ratings last week. Because do you realize this? Last Thursday's Cincinnati Reds versus Atlanta Braves Major League Baseball opening night baseball game also set a record. And I'm not even joking. Like, really good numbers. That baseball game between the Reds and the Braves averaged 1.37 viewers on ESPN, marking the largest opening day Major League Baseball audience since back in 2018. Hold up. 1 second. Seriously? That's the largest? 1.37 million watched Major League Baseball. I know here at The Dose, like, we make fun of Major League Baseball a lot because they never make more of their events. They don't like publicize or advertise or have all this stuff. Hey, MLB, don't miss it. Hey, opening day. Hey, you know, the World Series. Like, they hide all that stuff. But I mean, come on. 1 million viewers? When you're getting beat out by like a QVC ad for, I don't know, luggage, it might be time for baseball to rethink their plan, because you're not getting very many people watching that. And you're excited about it. You're like, yay, we got 1 million watchers. Yeah, that's not that good. I know you think it's good. It's not that great. Not great news for Major League Baseball this week. Switching over to football, American football, I might add, because think about this. American football is not currently in the Olympics, but the NFL is actually hoping they can change that. Do you realize the NFL is actually pushing to get flag football into the Olympic Games? And there is a chance it could happen. In 2013, the International Olympic Committee recognized football's international federation, but of course they didn't put the sport into the games or anything like that. In order to be included in the Olympics, the sport must have a broad international representation. That is what the IOC said. Of course, we all know you could probably just give the IOC some money and they do it. Anyways, American football actually applied to be included in the Tokyo Games. Didn't even get to the proposal stage. Instead, softball, baseball, karate, skateboarding, that kind of stuff got in instead. In the upcoming 2024 Paris Olympics, there are going to be new sports. You get skateboarding, you get sport climbing, and you get surfing. So football will not be on the table for 2024, but it could happen in 2028. Now, that might sound a long, long way out, but I mean, time flies, right? Especially when we're having this much fun. But I want you to think about this. In 2028, the Olympic Games are going to be in Los Angeles. I mean, you could maybe make a push for American football, granted it would be flag football, but American football to be at the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. Maybe that would be the perfect home for introducing football to the Olympic Games in Los Angeles. Ironically, a city where so many people don't have homes or whatever's going on out there. California is a wild place. One horribly tragic story coming out over the weekend as Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Dwayne Haskins died this weekend when he was struck by a vehicle getting out of his car early on Saturday morning. They say Haskins had some sort of motor vehicle trouble. He got out of his car and he was hit by a truck. Dwayne Haskins was just 24 years old. And while we all know he had struggled in the NFL, he was really having a hard time kind of taking his game to the NFL level. Keep this in mind. There were those that believed Dwayne Haskins might be the best bet for the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback job this year now that Ben Roethlisberger has retired. Just a terrible, terrible story about a guy that has gone way too soon, a guy that has gone way too young, and a guy who we don't know. Maybe he would have come out this year and done something special. Lost Dwayne Haskins this weekend. Very, very tragic story there. Finally, we know one of the biggest stories in the NFL offseason this year is the lawsuit between former Miami Dolphins coach Brian Flores and the NFL. Brian Flores is suing, saying that he lost his job due to racial implications. Well, he got a little bit of help this last week when former Arizona Cardinals head coach Steve Wilks and former Tennessee Titans defensive coordinator Ray Horton joined the accusations that have been made against the NFL regarding racial discrimination in the hiring process. The federal class action lawsuit will now include separate accounts of alleged discrimination against both Wilks and Horton. Horton's accusation of discriminatory practices focuses on the Titans during their search for a head coach leading up to the 2016 season. Wilks, meanwhile, only worked as the Cardinals head coach for 1 year in 2018 And he was fired after he finished the year 3-13. And you just know when these two coaches came on board to kind of help Brian Flores had to be like, really? Them? Can you give me anything? Like, can you give me some candidates that were actually, I don't know, good at their job? Because both of these guys sucked, and you're actually hurting my chances by coming on board. You know, in my time, I actually won games. Steve Wilkes, you were terrible at Arizona. All you did was get Arizona the top draft pick. Horton has never been a very good defensive coordinator anywhere he's been. Why are these guys that are so bad trying to help me? And no, Hugh Jackson, I don't want any input from you either. You don't help my cause. You're hurting my chances too. Brian Flores right now has to be highly aggravated by the people that are coming to take up his cause for him, because we talked about it here on the Dose. This was already a tough case to win. And the guys that are coming on to help him, they say help him, they're not really helping all that much. Okay, YouTube, be sure that you go over and you check out the rest of the podcast. This week on the Dose, we are handing out some college basketball awards. Going to want to make sure you check those out. The NBA playoffs are underway, and we have a Daly Dose top 5 for you. The Los Angeles Lakers have suffered a really brutal fall this season, but this week we're looking at some other NBA champions that fell, and they fell really, really fast. So be sure you go over and you listen to the full podcast. I will leave a link here in the comments on YouTube for you. Hope you all are doing well. I will see you all next Wednesday. Have a great week.